Woohoo! Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be reading through the very first novel that I ever wrote and finished. We are going to be roasting the heck out of it. Am I excited? Am I also scared? Am I cringing in advance to read what I wrote? Yes, all of the above. So first, a little bit of context. I finished this novel in the summer of 2018, having started it freshman or sophomore year of college, I think. I was a huge Charles Dickens nerd at the time. Don't at me. So it's set in the Victorian times. It's stocked full with purple prose. Such long wordy sentences. It's just so much. So much. Also, I wanted this to be a middle grade novel, and it's like 100,000 words. What was I thinking? I have always liked the characters though, and most of the premise I had with this story, and I think that I could definitely rewrite it into a better story now. At least I hope I can. So maybe this will become my Camp NaNoWriMo project this year. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I actually started a plot doc the other day, which laid out what I want to keep and what I want to add to the story when I eventually rewrite it, so there's that. I know I already have like 7 projects. I know I don't need an 8th. The story is just calling to me, okay? Anyways, let's read. Let's read this monster of a novel. I'm scared. I'm still scared. Yikes. Alright, apparently I left it on draft 3. Cool. Woo, and here's a whole bunch of notes. So I'm looking at this now, and I'm seeing that I actually wrote a whole query and synopsis, and I'm just like, did I really think I was gonna query 100k word middle grade novel? Because seriously, 100,000 words for a middle grade novel. What was I thinking? I mean, I didn't query it, which is good, but like, okay, so newsflash, I guess I was planning to query it as a young adult. Historical fantasy, look, 110,998 words. Look at how exact I was. Oh man, okay. I also found this huge document of like critique that I got from one of my, like, probably the only first beta reader that I had for this, and it's just like 5 pages of things to cut out and like things to just like the major issues. The first one is streamlining prose. Thank you, whoever you were. Also, this is wild to me that somebody actually gave me this whole document of feedback and criticism. Beta readers do this for free. I'm constantly in awe. Thank you, beta readers. Thank you for telling me what I needed. I'm definitely going to revise this. I'm definitely going to be revising this for Camp NaNoWriMo, for whatever. Oh man. Alright. Clicking open the chapters. Chapter 1. Yikes! There's the first line. I'm not ashamed, because this is probably all going to change. It better change. Oh man, okay. Alright, so I've got Scrivener open on my phone. Ta-da, right here. We're gonna read it on my phone. So I guess this will be the reaction portion of the video. Oh, okay. You already saw some of my cringe, and I expect that cringe will only get more as I start reading. Alright, let's go. Chapter 1. So I'm remembering now, I started this with like the main character chasing after her cat who ran outside. Cute cat. I definitely want to keep the cat when I rewrite this. And I think that's a good premise. I just think that the plot needs to catch up with her a lot sooner than it does in this draft. Like, she needs to run and she needs to find her cat, but then she also needs to find the plot. She needs to find her cat and find the plot. That's the spirit that I'm put into this revision. Okay. This prose, oh my god, like when I was writing, if I didn't use as many adverbs and as many extra words, then this could have been so much shorter. Mallory had only been too eager for the chance to go outside, as she didn't have many opportunities to leave the house when her parents were away. They were studying botany in the countryside and had not returned for many months, leaving their strict rules about leaving the manor intact. About not leaving the manor, I repeated many twice, and then I also repeated leaving twice. I feel like this says draft 3. I feel like this Scrivener document says draft 3, but I don't think it's actually draft 3. I think it's more like draft 1.5. Draft 1.5, definitely. I know I at least revised this main chapter, this first chapter, a bunch of times without really focusing on the rest of the book. So maybe that's where draft 3 comes in, but oh man. This is so dramatic, too. Like, I get it, I'm a dramatic person, but just reading this back just sounds so dramatic, so melodramatic. What was I writing? Protecting the manor from the rest of Cobblrose and its denizens. Who uses denizens to describe citizens anymore? Like, we get it. You know big words. You know long words. I don't even want to read the rest of it. I don't even want to read the rest of this. Because I know, so like, I was also trying to be really good at like representation. I just failed so much. Like, I was really going out of my lane, and I was just really co-opting a lot of narratives and storylines that I definitely shouldn't have. That's my major grievance. Also, I just realized that I ended the book with the protagonist waking up, which is the same kind of ending that I used for my main YA fantasy manuscript. And I'm like, where did I get that from? I know it's a common ending, but I just remember that I placed like a ton of emphasis on all these kids being magic, right? And like all these kids were magic and they all had magic powers. I just struggled so much with trying to get this bird imagery into the book because like they're called the sparrow children. I don't think it ever worked, so I feel like either I have to get rid of the sparrows, get rid of all that, just focus on the magic part, or really try to make the sparrows like a thing in the book. What magic powers are you gonna have with sparrows? Like, you can fly, that's it. Big whoop. I'm not envisioning this novel with a bunch of flying kids flying around, if that makes sense. Okay, so I know I skipped the whole middle of the book, but like that's partly because I just can't stand to read it. I just have a really, really bad case of cringing at everything that I wrote in the past. I just know that it was like a lot of dialogue, a lot of exposition, so much exposition. I think one of the major critiques that I had was that like only 2 or 3 things happened throughout the whole book. Like 2 or 3 main plot points happened, and the rest was just like the main character trying to figure things out and not figuring things out, and then rinse and repeat, and that's not good, to put it lightly. I admire the description and trying to create the atmosphere. I admire that, but we also need the plot to happen, and we also need the main character to actually go and search. The villain isn't there until the very, very end, and there's just a whole lot of convoluted tunnels and mind control through like jewels and stuff, and I never figured it out, and I never really got to the bottom of what all these plot points and what all these magical artifacts were really, really about. I think that's partly because I didn't really plot it out. Like, I didn't plot this out. Pretty much. I pantsed all the way through. Maybe halfway I ended up making one of my Excel spreadsheet outlines, but still, that Excel spreadsheet outline did not carry me. Did not carry the plot all the way through. Honestly, I wrote in a bunch of stereotypes. Like, I wrote in a bunch of harmful stereotypes, and I'm just reading back through it, and I'm like, what was I thinking in terms of plot? In terms of the character? In terms of things that happen? And also in the age range? What was I thinking? Past self. Can you tell me? Please? I'm kind of going through random chapters right now. There's just a lot. There's just too much. There's just too much here to dissect in a single video. I'm trying to find lines that I can make fun of. It's all very, very aggressive. Like, the prose just screams at you. My villains are screaming. Everybody's yelling for attention, I guess. There's just a whole lot to be fleshed out that I feel like I could definitely do a lot better in this next draft. There are a lot of good plot points that I feel like I can draw out, things with the town and certain people being like made of magic and whatever. Oh, like the reveal of the main character's magic. She like knocks over a chair, and then everybody's like, "Oh my god, you knocked over a chair without knocking it over. That must mean that you have magic." That's the dumbest reveal in the history of dumb reveals. Then how does only me going back and helping do any good? Mallory exclaimed, jumping out of her chair. Her locket bounced against her chest as she stood up, and suddenly there was a loud crash from behind her. Mallory froze, heart pounding as she looked over her shoulder. The chair was now in splinters, having crashed against the door from where it had apparently flown when she stood up. That's a whole lot of words just to say that she flung a chair across the room by using magic. What was I doing? Past self, why were you so wordy? It was a good first novel. It had lots of atmosphere, a lot of things that I can draw from, and I definitely learned a lot from writing it. I learned that I should never write it again. I learned that I can finish a novel, and that I can write something, and I can complete it, even if it took me like 2 years, and it ended up being absolute crap. Like, at least it proved that I can write and finish a novel, and at least it proved that I can write characters and plots and motivations and all that stuff that goes into writing a novel. So at least it proved that. And it also proved that I can like take criticism to a certain extent and revise this as well, because if I'm going back to the first chapter, I honestly remember that I changed it so much from the beginning. Like the very first draft I remember was the main character just sitting in a chair and waiting and like looking out at the rain, and my very wise creative writing professor at the time, I gave it to him to read, and he said, you know, if you start a novel with your main character being bored and looking out the window, then your reader will want to be bored and look out the window. And I was like, you're right, professor. And so I took that advice and I rewrote the first chapter a billion times. Honestly, rewriting first chapters is where I'm pretty comfortable still. So I just think that it could definitely do with a lot more work. I'm glad that it at least proved that I can write, that I can finish things. And I'm glad that I'm actually returning to it, thinking that I can give it another shot, thinking that I can revise, hopefully somehow make it better than it was, completely like pare it down to 50,000 words, which is a middle grade novel, which is the right size of a middle grade novel. I can't believe that I wrote 110,000 words of this. That's double NaNoWriMo. And I pantsed the whole thing. That's insane to me right now. I just can't fathom that. I just can't fathom that. I mean, it happened. Like, I did it, so... There are a lot of dinner party scenes. That's what I'm seeing. Oh man, this is so cringy. Is it true? You really do have magic? No sooner had Mallory sat down to breakfast. A nice affair, too. Sorry for all my English accent people who watch this video, but I just can't help it. A nice affair, too, with eggs, fish, bacon, and as far as she could tell, at least 4 different types of bread. Like, what was I thinking I was trying to accomplish with that? What was I thinking? Not everything has to be prose. Not everything has to be, I can jump into the action a lot more now. I explained a lot of the action, and I explained a lot of the action before it actually happened, which is, for me, I could just do a lot better. I know that I can do a lot better, which is good, but it's still yikes. Yikes to know that I wrote this. I hope that everyone else has somewhat of the same level of cringe as me when reading this, because yikes. That's all I have to say about this. I know that's not very, very descriptive. I just feel like I can do so much better. And I hope that this plot outline that I started the other day, or at least these ideas that I want to incorporate into this next draft, will help a lot. I kind of feel like I want to keep the first chapter, because I do like that moment with the main character running out into the rain. It'll only really be the second draft. For me, as far as I see these drafts, they don't exist. Do not exist. We are forgetting about them right now. I hope that it can be better, and I hope that everyone else's first novels were better, or if they weren't, then how did you cringe at them? What were you cringing at the most if you've gone back and reread your first novels? Because I know I'm cringing at the purple prose right here, and how it took me a million sentences to just get to what I really wanted to write. Don't write middle grade novels with 100,000 words. Just don't. Take it from me. If there's anything you take away from this video, take away that. I'm gonna end it here, everybody. I'm significantly embarrassed. I think I'm embarrassed enough by what I wrote, by reading what I wrote. Maybe I'll throw in some more lines in this video just for fun, but for now, I think I'll leave it here. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully I'll be writing something better than this. Okay, this line is actually pretty funny. Who knew what trouble could find her cat in the street? Exclamation mark, exclamation point. Thieves? Were there cat thieves? What? I just can't. I just can't. I just can't. That's it. And just one other thing about this draft is that the main character runs out of her house. The house that she's like, everyone's forbidden me from leaving my house, blah, 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 which doesn't sound great in 2021 right now, I gotta say. Then she runs out into the rain, a few things happen, and then she goes right back in the house. It's like, just leave the house, leave it behind. That's your moment. That's your, what's the inciting incident? That's the inciting incident. Just take it from there. Past self, what were you on? What were you on about? I can't believe I was thinking about querying this. I can't believe it. I just, can't believe it. I actually started a plot duck, no.